everybody. Thank you for joining me here today. Now, I've got a question to ask you. Do you believe in the afterlife? And if so, do you believe that you yourself can connect with it? And also, if you could connect with it, would you like to develop your own skills to even deepen them and widen them and enhance them? And how about if you don't even believe you can, to discover that you have these inherent gifts? Well, I'm really excited today because our guest is going to talk to us today about the afterlife, mediumship, psychic abilities, and how to develop those. Welcome to Creative Visions TV. I'm your host, Karen Dahlman, and again, thank you for being here. So our guest today is from Iowa. He lives with his family there. Now, this guest is not just a psychic medium. He also is a teacher, educator. He's a basketball, football coach. He's also an officiate of baseball and softball. So he does, the common family things and the school things. But on the other side, and in his other life, he's also a psychic. So he had to develop his skills. He did some understanding of this work when he was younger, kind of put it away like a lot of us do here, and came into it a little later in his life. We're going to get into his story and his own unique path of how he developed his skills, which will hopefully help you develop yours too. It's always good to hear other people's stories about this because you're going to go, wow, maybe I can try that too, or think about some of the ideas they have. Now, he's also an author and a talk show host. He's an author of several books, and I'll tell you about those in a second. But he's also a talk show host. He's had several shows, actually. And I'll tell you what they are. One's called E30 Death the Show. That's where I met him. I was on his show, you guys. At the End of the Day, The Closet Medium, The Butt Hurt Show. We'll ask him about that one. And The Point of Ascension. Now, The Point of Ascension was later changed and developed into a new show, which he is the founder, CEO, and creator of, and that show is called Beyond the Light Network. Now, he gets to host other people to come on, other experts and people in the field that are interested in the paranormal and give their own shows across the airways, and I was so privileged to be on that show too. So I actually met this guest on Twitter, and I appeared on his show, and we became friends since then, and I've been on his shows a few times. So it was time to have him on mine. I really like what he stands for. I really like his down-to-earth nature, and I'm excited to bring him here to show you as well what he's all about. Let me tell you about his books, though. He's an author of a series of books called Death the Final Frontier. Now, in that, he shares his encounters with dark and light beings and what ultimately got him back into his psychic abilities. So we're going to get into that today. His latest book is The Midwest Paranormal Roadtrip, and this takes readers through Midwest's most haunted destinations. So I'm super excited that he's here today. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest, psychic medium Charles Anthony, to the show. Welcome, Charles.
Hey, Karen.
Hi.
Hey, so happy to be here and on the other side even.
That's great. Yeah, because typically, guys, he's interviewing me, so it's fun to have him, and I get to interview him now. So we're going to get into the good stuff. And I know you have so much to share with the listeners about your own eclectic background to the paranormal and your abilities to reach into the other realms. So I've got to start here first, though. Tell us about what this Butthurt show is about.
Well,
I love the title.
It's one of those things where, politics and religion, okay? Politics and religion around a dinner table, okay? Politics and religion around the dinner table becomes the Butthurt saga, okay? And basically what I did is I put down a lot of thoughts, growing up in a very conservative family, and then eventually, Karen, kind of morphing to that liberal side of things, and then back to the middle. So I go through a lot of personal experiences being around that dinner table because my grandmother Gracie, that I happen to see, occasionally in this business, she was very conservative, and I can guarantee you that if she could, she would have rolled over in her graves with some of the things that I've done, especially over the last 15 to 20 years. But
no, you really are a closet medium, aren't you?
Yes, and I do that because I happen to live in a very conservative Bible Belt area of the United States in Iowa. And, I have to kind of put that away, and I have to be careful because there are people out there that will not hire me. You know what I mean? For you know, like I'm going into administrative leadership jobs. I'm going to teach one more year actually, and then I'm going to make that step into the executive branch of education, and hopefully to change things for the better.
You guys, he's working on his PhD in education, if I forgot to tell you already. So he is a teacher, and so this explains why he has to kind of keep it under the covers. And on this show a lot, Charles, we talk about how, you know, especially with the Ouija board, when I talk about that, how you don't necessarily always want to tell everybody, because not everybody, it has such a stigma about it, not everybody's open to it, and it does sometimes close people off. So sometimes you got to kind of pick and choose your battles, or when and where to, you know, expose yourself fully. And so I think, you know, I fully get what you're doing. And I did it for years too with my business in LA when I work in telecom, and I've shared that with my audience before, and I have a business as well. And so I couldn't really say too much until 2012. Then I came out of the closet, and you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Oh, you know, it's truly been a wild ride. You know, when you look at everything that's, you know, transpired in my life, and you know, I look back. You know, on the 30th of this month, 8 years ago, back in 2010, my father, Gerald Banks, passed away. And you know what? That was really, you know, it was a terrible thing to experience, but it was also an awakening. You know what I mean? A reawakening of a lot of my gifts, a lot of abilities, and where I needed to go. So, you know, basically from 2010 on, I've been on a huge voyage, and I say death the final frontier. Yeah. And I always pose those questions, Karen, in the book, because I like to write like everyone's around the dinner table, and you know the butt hurts. But you know, so we're around this dinner table, and I take you through those experiences, and that's kind of what I've done, you know, since 2010.
Yeah, so here we are in 2018, 8 years later, and you're really sharing a lot of your experiences, and that's what you're going to talk about today with us. So let's take us back to as a child where all this started for you, because I think a lot of people have these experiences and then put them away for them to be reawakened later. But tell us about yours.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I look back at a lot of strange occurrences that have went on, and as I continue to rehash all these older memories, more memories are reestablished, and everything's brought back in. And also, when you and I have to say this, when you bring in your higher self, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but when you bring in your higher self, it awakens you to the point to where you can remember things. And I can remember as far back as 4 years old. And, you know, I had an experience, a beautiful experience with this angel. Now, can I remember what the angel's name was? No. But I experienced this angel. And basically what this angel did is it brought peace and love and serenity. And really at the ripe old age, at the ripe young age of 4, that was the first time that I felt that perhaps I had a calling. And I went and talked to my mom. And, you know, my mom, very conservative, very, not super religious though, but spiritual in her own right. And she didn't say, no, Charles, there's no way that you could possibly, you know, experience that. She said, wow. And she asked me questions, and she made me feel at home, which is strikingly different than, you know, than a lot of folks, you know, that have experienced this stuff and have closed off. But for whatever reason, I kind of closed off. And I closed off, Karen, until I was, I believe it was 1989. And
wow.
Yeah, that was the year that I was actually saved, okay? And saved meaning, you know, I was established in this really great church. I had an experience where I felt like I was picked up and I floated towards the front. And that was really the time that I knew that I had to do something to engage some type of Judaistic Christian environment, or was that my calling, you know, to preach the word of God? Now, I closed that off really fast, and you know, I say that because the ideology behind what I've experienced is probably, you know, different than other folks are going to experience these things, but I actually got a little bit rambunctious, and Karen, what I did is I started doing things that I probably shouldn't have. like provoking spirits after I watched, some of these horror movies, things like that.
Okay.
And things got dark. There was one night after, we played Dungeons and Dragons and all that sort of stuff. And you know what? I had this picture in my mind of a ram head and yellow eyes, and this thing did not go away for several weeks. And what's interesting is I had one of my students a couple years ago do the artwork for Experiences Within the Light, Death the Final Frontier 2. And I don't know whether you can see that.
Oh, yeah. Wow, we can see that. So this vision was coming to you and you could see it in your head. It wouldn't go away?
Karen, it felt like that it was stuck. You know what I mean? Sometimes I would go through days on end where I felt like that I was outside of my body and that I was watching my life on videotape, VHS back then.
So you were dissociating. So in a way, yeah, separating. That's common for people. They go through a pretty extreme experience. So this experience, this you think came out of playing Dungeons and Dragons, or what was it about?
I look back at that time period, and I think provocation. I think the ability to open portals, stuff like that. But as I've continued to develop and get past my fear, when I was able to get past my fear, I see it now as more of a, could this have been a past life revelation that I dealt with these beings? I don't know. I can't tell you, but I will tell you that right now, as far as my mediumship abilities, I deal with a lot of paranormal groups when things really hit the fan. And prior to going and getting an exorcist, they contact me, and I'm able to distinguish and discern and get rid of darker entities. And I think that all of this had to have been part of the plan. And I say God's plan because, that's kind of my modus operandi. And when I was able to do that and get rid of the fear, man, it became really easy.
Okay, you bring up a great point, and I was so excited when you said you release the fear. I think that's something we talk about a lot on this channel. So help us here. How would you suggest releasing fear? It could be about fear of just maybe death. It could be fear about anything negative happening. It could be a fear about even moving it forward in your life. What would you suggest about that?
Now and I have to say this because it's important. We all deal with energies, whether it be darker energy, lighter energy, whatever. We all deal with these things in a different coping mechanism. And I think that's important to understand that we're not all robots. Okay. we're not all going to interact in the same environment. Right. We're all different, and that's okay. That's okay. But what I've been able to do, and I think I went through a lot of those experiences, the ups and the downs. I say the battle between good and evil, or light and dark. What I was able to do is, when I was able to finally find what works for me, then the fear just naturally went away.
That's wonderful. Okay, so when you said you had the ups and downs, are you talking about internal ups and downs? Are you talking external? What are you talking about when you say that?
I would say that it's got to be a mixture between the two.
Okay.
I look at my life, what it's become. I'm a well-respected educator, respected father. My kids still like me, which is good.
That is good.
I'm pretty respected in the paranormal and the spirituality component of things. But it wasn't always like that. I had issues. I went through a divorce. I had to deal with, not having custody of my daughter for many years. Finally got her back. Alcohol. Okay. All of these things can definitely counteract, but spiritually wise, after my dad passed away, Karen, I knew it was coming, but I was mad. I was angry. Okay. And I had that. I had it out with God. I had it out with Jesus Christ. I had it out with the angels. And that's when things, when you hit rock bottom, spiritually speaking, there's only one way to go, and that's up. And I went through some things where I thought I had spiritual attachment. I went through a lot of crazy things, scratches, harming my children, and this is from a spiritual matter where they actually harm them in the physical plane. And you know what? When I finally, enough was enough, I was able to break through that.
So what's that shift you made? What did you do I think you're touching on it here for us.
Yeah.
Is it because you found your power or ways to work with this energy, or maybe you could speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, you know, I have not been, what do you call it, technically instructed by other mediums.
Right.
You know, okay. Yeah. So I've had to, you know, to draw the new playbook up, you know, and I went from my Christian path. I went into Buddhism, where I could meditate and feel at one. And you know what? Something that really resonated with me with Hindu and Buddhist is the idea of past lives, the idea of, you know, coming back when you go on this plane. So I could really resonate with that, but I didn't resonate with all of it. So I continued to look outward. And that's why, you know, I became this radio show host. It was to gather all this knowledge, you know, and things like that. But, you know, Wiccan, the paganistic view, I love Mother Gaia. And I will tell you that even as a Judaistic Christian that believes in spirituality, when I call on, you know, healing spirit, Mother Gaia is right with me. Okay. And that's important. I actually had a Nordic symbol that actually showed up on my neck one night while I was in the shower. It burned. Yeah. I'll shoot you a picture of that so you can put it on.
Excellent, Ryan. We want to see that.
Yes.
So, what was the symbol about?
It depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
You know, I talked to several folks. I won't mention her name because she's actually one of two people that I don't associate with anymore. And I don't quite understand. But she saw it as more of a dark aspect. You know, dealing with more negative energy. I didn't see it as that way, and then a couple people said, well, they're just marking you for you to understand, to be open, you know, to this type of belief and who they were, you know, as far as nature, as far as the stars, astrology, numerology, all of these things, you know, really resonated with me. But, you know, we're talking about the higher self. I do believe in a higher self, connecting with God, connecting with the angels, connecting with Christ. Okay, so that really resonated, but I truly believe in a maker. You know what I mean? I don't call this maker a he or a she. I think it's both. But you know, I couldn't resonate totally because I didn't think that personally, me being in this physical body was a God himself. So I came back to the Christian belief. Now, what I love about it. What I love about it is, you know, I do read the Bible, okay? And a lot of people, you know, I've had people say, you're going to hell, Chuck. Anyway, but it's not like that, okay?
I agree.
You know, this is a man-made resonance of their own personal experience with God and Christ, okay? And if, you know, and then you always hear this stuff, you know, where it's gays, lesbians, you know, if you do this, if you do that. If you read the New Testament, Jesus Christ does not say any of those negative connotations. No. And that, you know, it got mixed up.
He preaches love for all. It doesn't matter. Yes. Yeah. You know what I'm hearing as you're telling your story, and I really almost want to go back to that marking on your neck, because it really what mattered was what you felt about it, not what somebody else told you. And I love that you said, no, it felt to you. It was like positive in growth and evolution. And what I'm hearing as you tell your story, and I want the listeners or the audience to hear this too, Charles is pulling in all these different things that resonate with him and being able to put them all together into a melting pot, pretty much like how we all are in the world. We're made up of all of our beliefs, our perceptions, our filters, and this is what comes out. So it sounds like you took all of that, Charles, and put it into what made sense for you. You're very eclectic with it, but you put it into what made sense for you. And that will be different than the next guy here and the next guy here and different from me. But yet we all get to the same path, or the same point of ascension, or the same point of really, truly having that connection to Source, to God, to the Creator. Am I hearing you correctly when you talk about that? Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And really, what it boils down to is when we can discern our own faith in things, faith in life, through that spirituality component.
and let things be as they must be, it changes you. And it doesn't necessarily rock you to the core, but it kind of does. When I was able to really put all this aside and really focus in on, my personal path, then things started to awaken at a very fast rate. Ooh. And, I won't lie to you when I say that when I see things, now I can't draw a lick, but this past weekend, I actually drew this.
Oh, wow.
That was something. This is some type of a fallen angel, something like that. Some being. I got a friend that calls it Skeletor, but I saw this. I saw this being in the Edinburgh Manor during my walkthrough. And then what was interesting is when they did their final, they did a final walkthrough without me. There's a spot where if you stop on their video, you can see this thing exactly the way it is. And
do you mind holding it back up again? Can you see it? Yeah. Sure. Hold it back up. Let's look at this. Put it towards the camera, if you will. So you guys got to remember now, Charles goes on paranormal investigations. So you were on one, and what happened was you saw this. Did you see this literally out here, or was it more here you saw it?
I saw this thing straight through my eyes, physically speaking. Okay. Now I was remote viewing, which is interesting, and I was able to describe the mood and what was taking place, how people were feeling. I was telling people, hey, did you see that woman? Did you see the child? And they were able to get EVPs, to back that up, which is pretty awesome when you can do that.
So back up here, are you saying you were doing the paranormal investigation from another location, remote viewing while they're out there?
Yeah, they were actually at the Edinburgh Manor, and I did this through remote viewing, which I do a lot of my work. I do a lot of healings, clearings, cleansings, things like that. I don't do a whole lot, for what do you call it, for a monetary value.
Right. Because you're a teacher right now, educator. You're focusing more on that.
For sure, for sure. But no, it's exciting. Sometimes it's not so exciting. But one unique thing about me is behind me. I have a couple of portals. Okay, and in these portals, this is where spirit will actually come to me. Like for example, I had a situation with a young girl. Let's see, it was a little over a year ago. And she was being severely oppressed. And I had a really nasty experience in my basement where I could smell sulfur. I actually saw this black mass kind of develop into this huge, nasty thing with its teeth. And these things come and visit me, Karen, even before I get a call to when I'm going to be clearing these things. So
to help somebody out. And I want to say something about that too, Charles. We talk about on this channel a lot, is that spirit is non-local. So it's not like they're stuck in a space and time. This is why Charles is able to do remote viewing while somebody else is actually literally in a place doing a paranormal investigation and still see what's going on. Or, and I've heard this before from other people too, Charles, is that other psychics too will say they will get the perceptions, the inner images, they will get the feelings, sensations, or smells before they even have their client come to them. Like they know that the energy is coming to them saying like, hey, I'm here, help me, or hey, I'm here, notice me, kind of thing.
Absolutely. And, sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it's a week long, a week later. But when I get the call and they have that tone in the back of their voice, I'm saying, you probably should have called me a couple of days ago.
They're like, how did you know? Well, I guess it's because he's a psychic medium. Now, I've got you. Okay, there's a lot going on here. We're talking about all these different things you did and explored and experienced, and some of the examples of what you do. But tell us, so people here that are watching can learn to develop this themselves. And of course, we all have our own path. But give them some, hardcore stuff that'd say, try this, step 1, 2, 3. If you have that to share with us, that help people develop these abilities.
For sure. I actually spend about 2 days a week where I'll read some passages of the Bible, doing some real work on myself. I actually try to spend at least 1 hour a week where I'm outside in nature. Okay, so I try to get my mindset correctly, but I actually work with the chakra system. Mm-hmm. So the crown chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, the heart chakra, and I do it. I do my clearings and cleansings a little bit differently. I'll actually start out at the root chakra system, and I'm going to bring in Mother Gaia, her energy and her healing, okay, and her healing to come up through the root chakra system into the sacral chakra to the solar plexus region, and then I hold, okay.
Oh, okay.
Then I hold. Then I'm going to open up my higher self, and I'm going to open that crown chakra up, and I'm going to bring in that beautiful yellow, gold, and white light with all of my team members, which is Jesus Christ, Archangel Michael, Archangel Ariel, Archangel Gabriel. I also bring in Metatron and Thoth, but we can discuss that a little bit later. But then I'll meet the two, like right at the throat chakra and the solar plexus, and then I bring in the super energy. I'll snap it, and we bring in and we shoot out all of the negative, vibrations, anything that's really affecting us through our heart chakra into the universe. So it can really open us up and cleanse us from the bottom. You know what I mean? And then we work out in that direction. And
I like that, how you bring the energies together. It's different than how I do it, but I really enjoy. I like hearing that. I'm going to try it actually, because you're bringing in all the grounding, the good earth energy that's all about cleansing and balancing, and then bringing the stuff higher up into it. And I work with the heart too. That's really interesting you said that. That's I feel like that's one of our major portals to receive and feel this energy. But I always talk about the heart chakra and centering ourselves. But I love that, Charles. That's fascinating. So you're suggesting people might want to try this too? Yeah.
And you know what I truly love is you're able to bring in Mother Gaia and Mother Earth in, and I'm also able to bring in Christ, the angels, and God, and we're able to mix up into this symbiotic, beautiful, expression to send out the old and in with the new, and basically let it vibrate together, which truly works for me.
It's balancing like heaven and earth together, bring them together, as I know Thoth talks about in the Emerald Tablets. So I think Thoth is very important to me as well. Do you want to share anything about him, since you mentioned him a few minutes? Thoth. You call him Thoth. I call him Thoth.
Oh yes. What I love about it's funny because sometimes I pronunciate tarot.
I say tarot. So we all say different. It's like tomato.
Potato. But Thoth is an unbelievable. Yes. When I say the name, my hair stands up. I feel at ease. It's almost like when I do work a little bit with Lakota medicine too. Yes. As far as let's see, I got to think here. Excuse me. One of my great friends, I'll call her Hawk because she doesn't want me to use her real name either. She's kind of a closet medium.
You all are.
But old Yellow Eyes, and I work with Io Tatanka or Sitting Bull, and I'm just able to bring in this. I wouldn't call it a hodgepodge because I think for my way it's a plethora of varying energies. And I think that's probably why I'm able to clear out so many darker energies because I have that experience, within, kind of like you said, that eclectic nature of things.
Yeah, and I see you bringing all these energies through you, and you're really doing the work. You're doing work on yourself. We talk about that a lot on this show. You're doing your own personal work away from this work, working on yourself through your biblical passages, through your own process of connecting to your higher self, and then you're doing a lot of chakra work, as you said. This is how, you guys. This is how he gets into being able to work with the clients and work with the people that come to him for the clearings or for the readings, because you're making these connections yourself, not just during the session or while you're doing the work, but before. You're doing it all the time. Like you said, you're carving out time in your daily, your week and your day to do this stuff. And I think that's imperative when you start developing these abilities.
Sure. I think the best advice I can tell people is this stuff doesn't take 5 hours to do. Okay, and I think that's important. I can do all of this stuff, in less than 5 minutes, and it's changed and molded me into what I am, and I think that it's truly a special thing.
It really is. And so if you were going to suggest to anybody here and they said, hey, I've had some experiences as a child. I also saw an angel or something like that, or I had an imaginary playmate and that, but here I am now, I'm 32. That's an example. I'm not, well, okay, I'll be 32 today. Okay, so here I am, 32, and nothing's happening. I can't see spirits. I can't see ghosts. I can't see angels anymore. What would you suggest to them?
It's one of those things that you truly have to open your heart and pray or meditate in your own way, and really let go. That's the seriousness behind us. Too many times we get so bogged down in the physical plane of things that we're so busy at work. We're busy with our kids. We're busy. But when you're able to truly just let go, and one piece of advice I would give is, if you get a chance to either listen to, like thunderstorms at night, if that resonates with you as you're going to bed. If you listen to, ambient noise, all of that stuff not only helps me get to sleep, but it also helps me heal. When I go through, that astral projection that I tend to do quite a bit, and sometimes too much, but it allows me to heal while I'm truly heal while I'm resting.
Now, a lot of people talk about letting go. And I understand that because I have to get in a whole other frame of mind, and I call it going from my left side to my right brain, more creative self. And it's so subtle when I do voice channeling and I connect with the energies. It's so subtle, but I know what it feels like now. That's the piece that it's like hard to explain to people, I think, sometimes for me. So for you, and you're saying letting go, explain that a little further for us, like something that you think might be a good takeaway for somebody watching the show, so they can go, what does that word mean? What does that mean to me? What can I do to let go?
When there are times when like let's say for example, I was thinking about my dad. Okay. If a loved one whom's passed that you were really close to, and you're sitting down, you're really trying to engage, and you really want to see Jesus Christ, or you want to see the angels today. Yes. First off, try to just relax and think of your loved ones, and that's helped me shift the feelings that I get. It's almost like and I'm sure, Karen, you do the same thing, but it's almost like it's warmer inside your body. Yes. It's like sometimes it's like a river of fire going through. You know what I mean? The bloodstream is the only way that I can truly express it. But start off small. Start off by a good way to do this is to write down maybe 5 things you want to pray for. Okay, which it can start off as, hey, I want a better job. I want my marriage, to be better. I want to be nicer to my kids, or something like that. Try not to do any physical things like, I'd really do these 3 things if you gave me the lottery numbers. Okay, right.
Don't bargain, in other words. Don't say,
no.
You must give me this if I do this. No, you're right. Yeah.
And first off, you have to put yourself in order to even get a little closer to your higher self, I think.
Say that again. That was important, what you just said.
You have to put yourself together, and what I mean by that is you need to fix, whether it's an issue that you might have. Now, one thing that feeling bad, okay, so it's like I'm feeling bad because I'm yelling at my kids today, okay, but until you put that in order and change your methods, to deal with your children so you can fix that, well, then you can't go any further. It's it's like a link in a chain. And one thing that really drove me nuts when I was opening up, I was like, come on, God, I'm open. Why the hell aren't you speaking to me? Come on. I wanted to know everything. What you need to understand is that sometimes spirituality is just as bad as real life. You have to be patient.
Yes. Majorly patient, you do. And it's also a divine timing. It's not necessarily your timing, our timing, right?
Yeah, it's and when it happens, you're like, holy crap, you know. When I was able to see physically, energy manifest.
Yep.
When I was able to see physically, you know, a portal opening. When you know, and when they started speaking, Karen, that kind of freaked me out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. It is kind of weird. I had it when I was a child, more so than I did. Well, now I have it again, but more so I did throughout my life. So as a child, I came in the world hearing this and literally talking to them, and them being literally outside of me, just like you're talking about, you know, being very clairvoyant with this, where other people didn't see that. I was the same way, and what I found was it was so natural. So then when I put it away, like you did for other reasons, work, etc., family life, people tell you you're crazy, they marginalize it. You do want to get a job or something, so you can't be talking about this stuff. So you put it away for whatever reasons, and when you come back to it, it starts up again. It's kind of like, wait, what? You start questioning yourself a little bit, and then you kind of sink into it. That's the letting go I hear. You kind of sink into it and go, okay, I'm not going to judge that and criticize it or critique it or wonder, is this real or not? I'm going to go with it and start journaling and writing it down or listening and taking my time, meditating and slowing down, because we're so busy in life, slowing down. And then you find that it starts coming back, right? Right, Chuck, it came back for you like that.
Yeah. And you know, I think it's interesting. Every time that you and I do a show together, it's like we're, you know, we're in the zone. And the thing I think that you and I can resonate with is we truly, when we put ourselves in order and we're taking good care of ourselves, right. You know, we see the world as a child. And I think that's important to throw out there as well.
Ooh, but I love it. The innocence, seeing the world, the innocence of a child. My guides talk about that all the time. Yes.
And too many times we are so laden by ego. Damn it, you know, I lost, you know, I owe these bills. I'm worried about that. Well, you know, as far as anything goes, when you're opening up, you have to let go and put yourself in order to let, you know, nature take its course. You know,
now, I know you're not saying put yourself in order like it's be perfect and fix things, everything. Yeah. You're saying look at yourself, be aware, be self-aware. Look at these things, look at your behaviors and see what you want to shift and change. And then your life out here starts shifting and changing too. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
And understand that none of us are perfect. And if anybody says they're perfect, it's time to find another psychic medium. I'll just put it that way.
I so concur. And what do you think about psychics and mediums who have clients that they see for years after years after years, or sessions after sessions? What do you think about that?
Well, you know, it's one thing that really bothers me is it appears that some people, whether it be in psychic mediumship, whether it be, you know what I mean, in politics, whatever, it's like it's like they want to create a guru type relationship.
Yeah, or healthcare therapist. Yes. Right. Yes, guru. I love that because it's like saying, okay, you need me so you can have your ascension or your wisdom or your evolution. And I hear you saying something differently, Chuck.
Yeah, it's one of those things, Karen, that you know, when I deal with a client or whatever, I want them to be able to do it themselves, even after the first time. Mm-hmm. You know, that's truly. That's
where you and me we're the same. we definitely believe that, and we want to empower people to find their own empowerment. And that we all have this. And you can see, guys, this is why I want him on the show, because the stuff he's talking about, it's like he's such a down-to-earth guy going, look, this is what I did, but you can do it your own way. Yet, you know, he doesn't want anybody to follow him and to become somebody's guru. And he wants everybody to power themselves. And this is what you're talking about here. And how you did it for yourself, and how hopefully, you know, you could touch other people with the same message.
For sure, and I won't lie and say that I never was prideful, that I never had ego.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that I really had to work with, and I think that a lot of times, looking back at even when I was going through those scary times, that it was that pride, it was that arrogance, it was that ego that caused me to wait a little longer. You know what I mean? To kind of come on my path.
So wait a little longer till you can step into it like fully, be able to have these mediumship abilities and these psychic abilities.
For sure.
And so if somebody, okay, so some people don't want to necessarily see, do mediumship or see into the realms, but they definitely want to read into it, like remote viewing or psychic abilities. What would you suggest are good ways to start that process? Like today, if there's a takeaway today, what could they start doing?
Okay. Find a way to meditate or pray, you know, to bring in the angels. I think that's super important to begin with, to be able to connect yourself to the universe, not just your basement or your country or your world. Really try to focus in on everything that is, and having faith. You know, I can't see the air that I'm breathing. I can't see the water unless I have a cup. And I also can't see, you know, the spiritual world, so to say, in my goggles, but I can see it because my eyes are open. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I do, and I think on that level, for me too, because I can see like you can physically, I also feel, and I think if people are watching say, oh, I don't ever see, I have no clairvoyance or clairaudience or clairsentience, I can't hear and I can't feel it. Well, what I'm hearing Charles say, and what I'm saying too, is to spend more time with yourself inside. So you can start feeling the subtle energies. When you work with the chakras and moving the energy around, as Charles was mentioning earlier, and start breathing it in and out of your heart or shooting it out, you start to feel these subtle energies. And by the way, the other dimensions do speak to you in very subtle ways. It's not so blah, you know, not so brass or blatant like we may, as we communicate, because it's a whole other way of communication. Most of it is telepathic or heartfelt. And so I'm hearing you talk about that as well, that really it's more getting into that center of yourself and feel the universe there.
For sure. And, as far as, some physical indicators that you could be connected to spirit, even without knowing it, smells. Love it. Do you smell cigar? When you don't smoke? Do you smell a sweet fragrance? Okay. As far as, your gut instinct, a lot of people say it's in the gut, you got to go with your gut. A lot of times that's spirit or your guardian angels or the angels telling you, hey, you need to be real careful here. Your hair standing on end. Well, someone might be right behind you trying to get your attention. Your ears ringing.
Yep.
Okay? Anytime that I hear my ear ring, I'm like, thank you, angels.
See, and that's I like this too, because you're talking about knowledge and have appreciation when you get these sensations. And I know a lot of people out there, you get the goosebumps, right, in your body, and you go, oh, that's truth. For me, I know when truth is I can feel it like that in my body. So developing these little subtle energy fields within your body, how you sense things, you do that by going within and learning to feel the energies. And then these, like Charles is talking about here, they start happening. Those smells, the olfactory senses. You start sensing things, feeling things, gut feeling, heart feeling. You may develop a stomach ache going, that's not right. Or you may get this strong message that says, don't go to this place today. Don't go get in your car right now. I mean, it develops like that. And those are your inherent psychic abilities. We all have these. It's a matter of beginning to fine tune yourself to feel them, right? To feel and sense them.
For sure. And, when I deal with a negative energy or darker feelings, my thermometer, okay, when it's really going through the edge, I get pains in my side, almost like somebody's stabbing.
The same side each time?
Yes, left side.
Isn't that interesting? I don't get that, but he gets that. So you guys look at your own body. Your body's going to do different things. Mine does it differently than that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And, was I stabbed in a previous life? Possibly.
Yep, maybe.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But that's how I kind of deal with it when things happen. Now, my youngest daughter, she gets a stomach ache. My oldest daughter, well, she sneezes 20 times. I don't know, 20 times in a row. It's all different. And being open and always truly being the student and always striving to find other answers is I think it's important to understand that, because there are psychic mediums out there, and Karen, you can attest, that think they know all the answers.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, and you'll find that in politics, you'll find that in bureaucracy, you'll find that, where you teach, and I'll find it in my industry. And so it's like when you guys stop saying, I don't have to learn anymore, and that's all that is. Yeah, no. We're here on earth to keep learning and evolving. My spirit guides always say, I love this, Charles, they say, value the time as a human, because you were actually chosen to be here, and it's hard to become a human, and you're here to have a human experience first. Although we all know you are spirit, your spirit being's number one, but you're here to be a human, and to have and to experience those experiences and feelings and emotions, and go through that all, and cherish being a human, as opposed to just trying to get into the other realm quickly or something. So they definitely acknowledge that being a human is a wonderful thing, although many of us think it's not, but it is.
Maybe also the biggest advice that I could get for anybody that might be starting to awaken is to set boundaries. Okay, the spirit, important. Yes, the spiritual realm, and I'm going to do that right now. You all can just wait for a little bit. Okay. I probably got a full house, Karen. You can probably see that as well.
Yeah, and because when we start talking on this level, we've Charles and I've talked to this before because we've been on his shows. When we start talking on this level, and we really, for us, we start spiraling into the energy, so they start coming through. And so I feel my guides behind me, but they're always welcome. He's talking about other beings that want to come in and communicate with him, which is going to have to talk to you later. So important to set boundaries. I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you, because one of the things I did when I was doing this work, this was many, many years ago. I was in my okay, I won't say how long. Okay, let's just say it was like early 90s, but early 90s. And I was a therapist, and I was also doing past life regression work and hypnosis and stuff. And working in different hospitals with different kinds of clients, with a lot of energies around them and attachments and things of that nature. I had to literally set boundaries with myself to not. And actually, in therapy, you learn to set boundaries with your clients so you don't take home all the emotions and stuff. But at night, when I go to bed at night, different beings wanted to talk to me. So my boundaries were this, Charles, and I'm telling you, everybody out there too. I would literally talk to the spirits and say, my bedroom is off limits. You can wait at the door or see me in the morning like you just did. That's what reminded me of it. They don't come in my room like that. Now, if I invite them in to come talk to me in a dream, well, that's another story. But when I'm sleeping, this is why I have no fear of the dark or going to bed or any of those fears in my house, because I put those boundaries up. So tell us more about how you set your boundaries, because this is important for people. I think anybody doing this kind of work, and like you said, when they awaken, they forget to do that, and then they feel drained, or the vampires suck it all out of you. Vampire people, vampiric-like people, or even energies out there that want to suck your energy. If you don't set these boundaries, you're going to feel exhausted. So what do you do exactly?
What works for me is to bring in Jesus Christ into my heart, okay, and I can feel him right now. The angels, and say, hey, and what I do is I surround myself with yellow, gold, and white light energy, which I think is extremely important. And also I reach out to my family as well, so no spirits can come in and piggyback off them, because both my daughters and even my son has abilities, but hasn't quite woken up yet with it. But so I and then I'll say, even in my own mind, okay, guys, enough's enough. I need to focus in on the physical plane of existence.
Yep.
Jesus Christ, the angels, thank you so much for taking care of this and taking this weight off of me, and protect myself, my family, my friends throughout the night or throughout the day, for that matter. And I truly shut down. And
yep.
Me
too.
That's important, because for a long time, man, I was wide open. And it was like I was going 350 miles an hour. and frankly, life was tough.
Yeah, it is. And when you start opening and awakening, it's very exciting, and it's easy to go kind of balls of the walls. And then, and I remember those days too. And people ask me, well, how come when you do the board, you talk to all these spirits, they don't, they keep coming? I go, no, they don't, because I have boundaries, and I have my guides, and you have your guides you work with too, and your higher self that sets up the boundaries as well. So when I'm sleeping, or when I'm not in the moment, and I want to just be my human self and enjoy life with friends, kick it, whatever, I will set up those boundaries, and I let the guardians and guides take that over for me, and they do. It's a beautiful, really a beautiful relationship that you start developing with these other beings. And I think one of the most critical things I kept hearing you say is your appreciation you have. Again, your gratitude and appreciation you have for these abilities, but also for those who help you with these abilities.
Yes, it's extremely important to humble yourself, both physically and spiritually. And when you're able to do that, then things can really go in the right direction. And one piece of advice that I would give anybody that's channeling, things become too tough. What I've done is I've simply done this. Okay, in the name of Christ and the angels, I want you to stop right now, step back, and out of my zone, and then I'll snap, or I'll clap. Okay, and then
break up the energy.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, everything's clear and everything's good. That's what I end all my clearings with when like somebody's being oppressed or something is a big clap.
Oh, that's fabulous. That's great. I know a lot of shamans will do that work, will do it too, or use rattles or drums to open it and close it and to break up the energy. That's fantastic. Well, we've come to the point in our show where we're going to wrap it up, but I really would like you to say any last words that you could of advice, and you've given so much. You've given us so much today, but any last final words you'd like to say that would help people, inspire them to be able to awaken these abilities within themselves, and also how to use them if they wanted to, even today?
Yeah, the biggest advice that I could give anybody that's wanting to awaken there's true spirituality is to humble themselves before God. Okay, to humble yourself before God, and you know what? Be able to truly let go and garner a faith beyond anything that you can possibly imagine.
Very well said. Well, where can people find you if they want to look up either in your books? And I know you hold up your books. You got a plethora of books, and you guys, I'm also going to put you'll see the pictures here, but a plethora of books, and I'll give links to his shows as well. Look at this. He's been writing for a while, and he has 2 master's degree, a bachelor's, and a PhD. He's working on a PhD now. Incredible, great work. Yeah. Wonderful.
My wife says I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none. So I have to throw that out. You can find me. The easiest way to find me, perhaps, is just on Facebook. Type in Charles Anthony. If you want to check out our network, there is a contact information that goes right to my email as well. It's beyondthelightnetwork.com. You can check that out. Twitter, I think it's BTLN or at BTLN. If you want to email me, it's still pointofascension1972@gmail.com. I answer. It may take a while because I am truly a busy person.
Oh, but he is.
But if you're feeling in trouble and you need some help, I am there, or I'm able to allow someone else. There's a plethora of great individuals that are working with energy and healing work out there. And we all work together and network.
And you know a lot of people, and that's how I met him too, through networking on Twitter, as I mentioned before. Anyway, I want to thank you for being on our show. It was just such a pleasure having this conversation with you, and it was fun for me to interview you at this time.
Absolutely. You know what, Karen? I really appreciate our friendship, and
I do too.
And I just love everything about you, and thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, you guys, thank you for joining me. Isn't this wonderful? You got to hear a man who has truly worked with himself full circle. What he had as a child, put away, brought it back out, and it happened through the events of his life, such as his father's death. What was a tragedy and sadness for him brought out and reawoken all this within him. He found ways to work with it, all these different abilities within himself, by following his path, meaning following different traditions that excited him at the moment. And he brought them all together to allow himself to experience his gifts. And he shares his gifts in this world. And he finds that if you are humble, if you are in space of gratitude, if you are loving and you find yourself within your connection to your own creator and higher self, that you are able to do this work that much more easily and smoothly and to help all. So I want to say thank you for joining me again today. This was Creative Visions TV. I'm your host, Karen Dahlman. Now get out there and do your own awakening. And I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye-bye.